Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversation. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
There you are. Don't you hide from me. How you doing? Good morning, everybody. Good morning, beautiful people, and welcome to today's Friday, the 1st of October's installment, you guessed it, of Bathrobe Moments. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm your host, Lauren Michaels Harris. It is a beautiful day so far in the city of Chicago. How are things shaping up in your neck of the woods? We are upon the weekend. Hallelujah. Yes. Can I get an amen? Right? Here we are. Oh, wow. First day of Q4. I just got to say it. How are you doing as far as being on point or even close or doing anything within those intentions that you set, not only on the first day of this year, but every day since that day? Hey, every day that we wake up, there's a chance to start all over, a new beginning, right? So whatever it is that is unfinished, unstarted, start it, finish it. It's just that easy. It can't happen unless you do it, right? So how's everything been going for you this week? So much going on. Yesterday was the last day. I am no longer the current cover person for Shift Magazine, but what a wonderful, wonderful ride it was. I will be somewhere in my hundreds one day, looking at the wall and remembering this great memory. So I want to thank Robert Garcia and the team over at Shift Magazine. Thank you so much for this honor and this blessing. I truly do thank you and love you from the bottom of my spirit. Also, I'd like to say good morning and send a shout out to all my great friends over at Heart of Hollywood Magazine. I'm going to pull up really quickly so we can get going here today. I'm going to pull it up and pop it on the screen for you because there's a reason. There's a reason. Here you go. heartofhollywoodmagazine.com. You noticed, yes, we, that means me, you, all of us that are a part of Bathrobe Moments. I just sit in the chair, but I wouldn't have anything to come to if it weren't for all of you. So we share in this joy, this blessing together. Thank you, Heart of Hollywood Magazine, for putting us on the back of your wonderful magazine for an indefinite amount of time. What a blessing, right? And I'm not going to get into that today. I had something else. I'll wait till Monday. Monday, you want to make sure you show up. You're going to meet one of the two MCs that we have selected for the Power of We Symposium coming this April 28th. Our third one. We're so excited. Back in Chicago, where we live, we go out and visit different places. Atlanta was last. We got an award from the United Nations for it after that. Thank you, God. What a blessing. And we're bringing it back. This year, we have a theme, keeping our kids safe. I'm partnering with Jason Cisneros and the great team, Pastor Rudy, and all those people over at CERT Ministries, and some outside people as well. We're bringing in the very best of the best to celebrate, uplift, and implement some choices, if you will, inside the minds of not only our young people, but also all the adults that are there or should be there to support these young people. So mark your calendar now. Tickets go on sale in 14 days. That'll be the 15th of October. I'll give you more information as we draw closer to that date so you can reserve your seat as soon as possible. 300 seats, 150 will be the kids. The other 150 will be us. And I want you there with all of us. Can I get an amen? Put it in the comments if you're interested in coming. We want you there. So Monday, you're going to meet one of the, I'm not going to tell you who it is, but you're going to meet one of the two on stage MCs, and I'm really excited about it. And next week, great lineup next week. Oh, some people that have never been here before you're going to love. So who do we have here today? That's the question on the minds of all. Her name is Michelle NOORDHOF, and she hails all the way from, Canada. That's right. Okay, I tried to write this out phonetically. Let's see. Okotoks? Something like that. Okotoks. Yeah. Canada. Now you told Alberta. Outside of Alberta, although Alberta's the capital, I think. She'll explain it when she gets in here. Ooh, geography. Ugh, I still cringe at the name of that. So anyway, she's here. Now, I was really moved, to be honest with you. You know, I always ask the guests that are coming on to supply me with their headshot, of course, and a brief bio. And Michelle is the very first person ever. Her bio was more of a story, a message, and I loved it. And I posted the entire thing with the promo, and I wanted to read that to you now. Michelle says that it is, I'm going to read it from the first person, if that's okay, so I don't have to convert it. So she goes, it is my heart's mission to remove the silence and stigma around suicide. Whether it be someone who is struggling or those who have lost someone to suicide. I have gone through abuse in my adoptive home, later domestic abuse in not one, but two relationships. I've lived on the streets and gave it away to keep going. I have met biological family, but not my biological mom, who chose not to meet me before she died. I believed in the lies the world told me, the lies that my adopted mother instilled in me, and the devastation of waking up after being so sure that I would be successful in ending it all. Now, that was a confirmation of love, this failure, I believed. I was and I have floated in and out of self-belief, but when I found the Misfit Nation, yay, Misfit Nation, where's my twin? Yes, I'm a member of that. It was a game changer for me. And we're here to change some more games up today. But before I bring Michelle in, I thought it might be wise, if you will. Now, what did I just do? Okay. I thought it might be wise to share a little bit, especially during these trying times known as COVID. Some people keep saying, back when we were in COVID, we're still in it. You're still wearing masks. It's a little bit more relaxed, but there's stuff going on inside of people today, not just because of that PTSD, our military members. I'm a veteran. Thank you for all of your sacrifices, everybody out there that is serving or has served, and also the families of those who have served. So I want to share this with you. Let me see here. I want to make sure I do it right. So let's take a look in here. So this is the most current video I could find that's speaking to what we're here for today. So bear with me as I get it up for us. And here we go. Let's take a look.
Well, I often tell the story that when I met a new acquaintance many years ago and they asked about my family, I said, Dylan's going to have a great life. He's smart, he's athletic, he's good looking, and he has lots of friends. He'll be able to do whatever he wants.
It was barely a month ago that Dylan Buckner took his own life.
Whatever stereotypes people might have about kids that commit suicide, however it's portrayed in TV or movies, was just not our experience with Dylan at all. It was a very silent, very invisible killer that didn't come to our attention until he made his first suicide attempt in September.
And the family says school closures due to the pandemic played a part.
450,000 people and counting in the US have died of COVID. And that's a terrible thing. But I'm fortunate in that I don't know any of those people, but I do know one person who committed suicide. I learned after his first suicide attempt, while his depression predates COVID, there really is no doubt in my mind that the lockdowns, the isolation, the lack of in-person schooling, the lack of in-person interaction with his friends, the lack of football absolutely contributed to his death.
And Dylan's family isn't alone. Across America, the debate over whether it's safe to reopen schools now can't avoid what experts say is a mental health crisis. A rising number of suicides in some places, cries for help everywhere. Fewer than half of students have returned to this high school in suburban Chicago. There is a quiet, an emptiness here. In these rooms, there are virtual counseling sessions, and the demand has increased.
For the students that struggled, we started to see students that started to really show up with signs of depression differently than they had before. Everything from not being able to take care of themselves to just not getting out of bed, doing school from their bed, and then not engaging in the class at all. Whether you're 5 years old or 17, this developmental phase is happening. So we have seen this before when students have trauma in their lives and have a trauma history in their lives. There are times where that developmental process can be slowed and impacted.
As schools everywhere work to reduce the COVID risk, even a full return to class could come too late for some.
I would think if I could predict the future that for the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see students come through that have picked up trauma history around this, that are continue to need special support here in schools.
Hi, I'm Diana Boone, and this is my routine. I wake up over there and then come over to this desk area.
Students everywhere can probably identify with Diana. For almost a year now, her bedroom doubling as her classroom.
It's been pretty difficult for me, especially staying remote this whole time. I haven't had that interaction with other people as I'm used to, but the people who are struggling are really struggling sometimes, and they don't feel like they have that support from the school because they just don't understand it.
We spoke to her on her doorstep about that feeling of isolation.
It's been hard some days, but then I just kind of think about, hopefully this will be over soon. Hopefully maybe there will be a better day tomorrow, and I just kind of get myself through it.
But there are, sadly, so many stories that end like Trevor's.
He was awesome. And I know moms say that about their kids because every mom thinks their kid's awesome. But I'm not the only one that thought he was awesome.
But being away from school changed him.
I saw some of his light go out a little bit. It made him sad. It made him angry. He kind of felt lost. He even told me he felt lost.
Trevor took his own life in October. His family saw no warning signs. His mother says the isolation, too much for him.
I had to take a moment. Sorry. Wow. There was like 2.5 minutes left of that, but I think we get the picture. So You guys, now's a great time to share this broadcast out. We never know who is somewhere right now feeling invisible, feeling alone, feeling like they're not able to feel, if that makes any sense. So if you could, just share it out to 2 people each. Just do that. We never know. Trust in what is greater than to get it to where it needs to go. And we're going to get our guest in here. It's first time to the show, so we do what we always do. We put our heart into it and put our hearts on the screen as we welcome to the show, Michelle NOORDHOF. Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning, Lauren. How are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that video. That's a very powerful message.
It is, as well as yours. And that's why I'm so honored and happy that you're here today. And I want to congratulate you before we even get started on the courage that it takes to speak about this. You know, I myself have had several attempts, more than 5, less than 10 in my journey. But we all know how that feels, you know. And there's so many people still struggling, especially now during what's going on in the world, like we just heard, and our kids. So I was really excited when you reached out to share your story. It's a very brave and bold move on your part. So what I'm going to do is just let you say hello to everybody. You're hailing from Canada. Did I say the name of your town? I'm sure I butchered it, but tell everybody where you're at in the world.
So I'm in a small community outside of Calgary, Alberta, Canada. My town is called Okotoks, and the original pronunciation was actually Okotoks because it is representing Big Rock. And so
like
we have native lands
American.
here. Yes.
It sounds like a Native American name, doesn't it?
It is. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So there you go. Bing. Okay. So take us back. We heard a little bit in the bio about, so you were adopted. I was pseudo adopted. I mean, they called it that. It wasn't legal, but we grew up someplace other than with our biological families. And just like you, I met my mom, but yours didn't want to meet you. And so go ahead and take us back to your version of In the Beginning or Once Upon a Time, and kind of bring us up to where you are if you can.
Yeah, so for me, I think going right back to the beginning, and I think often for each of us, memories that stay with us usually have had something attached to it, whether good or bad, that creates a foundation for whatever belief systems that we start to create, especially when we're young. And so I had a number of very key life experiences. The first one being quite young. I was in a high chair. It's a family gathering. I threw up. My mom was extremely angry. I remember yanking me out of the high chair, running to the bathroom and being very angry. And so her response started to create words and phrases that I started to use that I would identify myself with. And so I created a word from that event. Then there was other events. My mom used to literally take safety pins and pin my sleeper to the mattress every night. And then she would just leave the room and just leave me in the dark. And so I started.
You remember that?
What's that?
So you actually remember that? It's not, you didn't get that secondhand is what I'm asking.
I had actually blocked that memory for a long time. And one of my very close family members asked me if I remembered that. And as soon as she mentioned that, I had an instant recall of one night laying flat on my back. And I remember my mom doing something, and she was down the side of me, and she was pinning me to the mattress. Now, as a young child, I don't understand why. I do now. Right. So my adoptive parents had a child, and her name was Rosie, and she died just before her first birthday from SIDS. And so my mom had found her they couldn't have any more children. And so that's where their story starts in relation to me. And so I feel that probably during those times, we're talking the early 1960s, one, my mom and dad suffered an incredible loss, and there was no one to talk to about it. SIDS or any types of, postpartum or emotional things are just not discussed.
Right.
Then there's the expectation of the 1960s homes that you're going to be a family. And so for my mom, I don't think she's ever found the healing for those pieces, but she wanted to have a family. And so that's where I came into the picture. And so when I was about 7, so up to this point, these people are my parents.
Right.
And we had just moved away from this farm that we'd lived at. There's a lot of really crazy, frightening memories of the first home that I lived in. And so I thought moving to this new home would start to create a change, and it was going to be better. And I've all of a sudden got this cute little room, and I've got these puppies and bunnies and kitties on the walls, and you start to set up this whole new story.
Right.
And my mom, when I got home from school, I was 7, and she says to me, "I need you to sit down for a minute." And I said, "Okay." And she says, "I'm not your mother."
Oh.
I'm sorry? Like, well, who are you? Well, who's my mother? Where's my mother? And I'm like firing shots at her like crazy because I don't understand this and I don't know what she means.
Right.
And all she says to me is, "Well, your mother didn't want you. She left you behind the hospital." And that was the end of the conversation.
And that's how she said it.
That's how she said it. So she didn't even tell me that day, that I was wanted, that I was loved. And it's not to say that my parents didn't love me. That just wasn't communicated. And so I started to see that there was already, with the belief system I was starting to develop of my experiences in the words, I was starting to create words like shame and guilt and fear and being unwanted.
Okay. I just got to ask that you had mentioned, you said at the top about how, we keep those memories, the fond ones and the not so, in a certain place. So do you remember, Michelle, what happened immediately after that conversation concluded where you were given the news? Because I remember how that came to me, and it was very similar, just like it might as well have said, "Oh, and by the way, it's supposed to rain this afternoon." It was so out of the blue,
Yes.
And blind, as if there was no, I think if it were me delivering that kind of news, I would have been, and how do I do it? I'd have called and probably asked some professional, what's the best way to bring this in? And maybe I wouldn't have, who knows? It was a different time in life then in the world, like you mentioned, the 60s. Mine was the early 70s when they did it to me. But nonetheless, it still has left like, let's just say if that moment in time were a bathtub, that news left a ring in there that it took me decades to scrub out. And I think sometimes I'm still scrubbing. So do you remember exactly what you did, little 7-year-old Michelle? Did you run outside? Did you go back to playing like nothing had happened? Did you run in the room and throw yourself on the bed? Do you remember?
It's funny because I still remember the outfit I was wearing. I still remember the top, and I still remember the little skirt with, it was teal in color, and it had these lassie dogs all over it. And I remember just kind of sitting on the floor in shocked silence, and my mom carrying on. She's,
Kinda
gone
like
ahead
talking,
and
but
make
you could hear
supper,
her.
and it was nothing.
You're listening, but you weren't listening. That kind of thing. You can hear like a fugue state almost.
Yes.
Yeah, same thing. Numb, just numb. Yeah.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, it's time, to get to chores, and you need to feed the cats, and you need to go out and, gather the eggs. And so you just got to pick it up, and you got to just get going with a whole realm of, oh my God, I don't know what just happened. And I'm only 7 and I don't have the tools to even know how to unpack that. But I walked away that day with one word. Well, actually 2, unwanted and abandoned.
Mm.
And so that was added already to the first words, the guilt, the shame, the fear, which you just internalize because there's no
Right.
place to talk to.
Mhm.
And so you just start to
Okay.
stuff it down.
So
And
where would you say, Michelle, let's say that you were on a trampoline that day and you bounced after that news over to someplace next. Where was the next? Because I always say, what the moment you just described, that's those pain moments are days where we go to sleep, we wake up one version of ourselves, and never knowing that we will never wake up that person again. That person is gone forever. And so, do you remember where you traveled to in your journey next? Because I don't, I mean, I don't know, but what we're trying to do is create some form of a timeline, a storyboard from one moment to the next, to where the first suicide attempt happened, to kind of break it down, peel the onion if we could. So then after
yes,
that news, do you remember what the next thing was that threw something into the ring of, you don't really want to be here because you don't deserve to be alive? What was the next lie?
I think the next point was just a short time before my first suicide attempt, and I'll get to that in just a second. And so my hometown is Claresholm, Alberta. It's a little community about an hour and a half south of Calgary.
Okay.
And we lived out in the country. Riding the bus every day was just part of what I did. And being small, being very insecure and unsure of myself, I was an easy target. And I had a whole bunch of boys on the bus that would torment me. And we had a garbage can at the back of the bus. And everybody would throw the garbage in there. And once it got kind of rotting, the boys would grab all the garbage out of it when we were kind of towards the tail end of the stop. Many of us left on the bus. And they used to smear all the rotting garbage through my hair and all over me and call me names. And the bus driver didn't even react. I mean, he's a whole nother story. I've learned lots about him since then and the why. So I finally got brave enough to go home to my mom, who I didn't really have a close relationship, but I thought, I'm desperate. And I asked my mom if she could help me. And her words to me was, I'm sorry, I can't help you. The moms of these boys are friends in my ladies group, and they're very important to me. And I don't want them to be upset with me by me saying something to them. So I'm sorry, I can't do anything for you. And so there
How
was
old were you then,
additional,
Michelle?
I was probably about 11-ish, I'm going to say,
Okay.
because my first attempt at suicide was at the age of 12.
Wow.
And, it was an incredibly poor attempt, but the
It was.
emotions behind it were so real that that's what was the more important piece. It wasn't whether or not I had a skill set to successfully kill myself. It was the trauma that was happening in that very moment of carrying all these burdens of this belief system about myself.
So that
And
day, that happened, that first attempt, was it in the afternoon or morning?
it was
That
the
you tried?
afternoon. It was the
Okay.
afternoon after school.
So when you went to sleep the night before, was this on your mind?
No, I don't think so. I know that I was really tired and I was just really, really sad and didn't understand the why, the sad, and there wasn't anyone to express that sadness to. And there would have been a day on the bus that day of some sort of transaction that I just had enough. And there wasn't anybody there for me. And obviously I wasn't important enough to stay. So I
So
really wanted to
take
go.
us through that day if you could. You get up, you get dressed, you have breakfast, say goodbye to mom, head out the door to school. At what point of the day did the soundtrack change to the one that led you to the suicide attempt? Do you remember?
I don't remember a lot of the details of the day. It would have been a standard day. I would always getting out of bed late, always getting into trouble for getting out of bed late, racing to catch the bus, getting into the school, lack of confidence and stuff. I didn't really feel in those days that I had a lot of friends. Little things like my school lunches. I had a real hate relationship with food. And I recognize now that there's a key point back to that high chair incident, but I didn't realize in those days around the food. But I would go through this terror every day because I would try to dispose of my food because I wasn't going to eat it. And I never wanted my mom to find out because I was terrified I was going to get a real, licking and into more trouble and added to things. And I think that particular day, I was struggling to figure out how to get rid of my lunch without anybody seeing it. And so emotionally, it's packing on the layers.
So did you have an eating disorder? Or were you on
Yes,
the way to having an eating disorder?
yes, I was on my way to having an eating disorder. So my
Okay.
late teens and early 20s, I went through anorexia. And then
Okay.
through health issues, went through a lot of weight gain. And so those then become opposites and start to feed in. And it's only now that I'm recognizing, the hate relationship with food. And I'm just starting now, I'm 58, to, look at the foods I eat from the point of how incredible the foods are and the nourishment that they provide. So
That's really interesting because I don't know if you guys out there picked up on it, but you've referenced it, I think 3 times already when you say that hate relationship. And ordinarily we hear both sides of the table in there. Love-hate relationship, like we go back and forth on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're over here, the rest of the week we're over there. But you just straight out hate. So, man, you're not, if you didn't have to have food, you most likely would not have eaten.
Oh, I definitely didn't. And in my late teens and early 20s, my circles of friends would try and even force me to eat. Part of the abuse that I was in my second relationship included that piece and being kind of, physically attacked if I, didn't eat. It was bizarre. But what I recognized was there was nothing in my world that I could control except what I put into my body. And if I was forced to put food into my body, I could easily get rid of that food. There was no need to, stick fingers down my throat or whatever. I could get rid of it just like that.
Okay, so that day you were trying to sneak your way to the trash can or, to get rid of your lunch. And then what happened?
Then I got on the bus and had another day of being really, really picked on. There was some pretty nasty name calling that day. Interesting. Feel that recall in the moment. So,
yeah.
Ooh. And I just got home and I'm just like, I don't want to be here anymore. And there must have been enough time that my mom was busy with something that I went into my room and closed the door, pretending to do a something and, tried to slash my wrists. It didn't do a very good job, but it was really an outward of what was going on inside. That emotion was so incredibly deep and it was cutting me on the inside, completely cutting me.
So when you did that, when you actually did the act, one or both?
Both.
And did you scream? Did your mom come running? What happened?
I couldn't get the instrument that I had to cut deep enough to break the skin deep enough to impact a difference. And I wasn't going to make any noises out loud. Like, it hurt, but I was, like, you're holding your breath and you're keeping it really internal. And I've got a dialogue over my shoulder of, is my mom going to come through that door?
Right.
And it's fear, and it's all these.
Right. Because if I don't do this completely, I've probably most likely taken bad to worse.
Yes.
Because you're in between. So I'm assuming there was some proof of the attempt on your wrist, even though it didn't cut deep enough. It was. So what did you do?
Yes.
Did you immediately start to cover them up? Did you want them to see it? What was next?
I covered them up. And because my mom didn't really pay attention to me, like, there was like never any close interactions unless I was getting a spanking. There wasn't really a worry there that, she would be hugging me and would happen to notice that I've got, marks on my arms.
Right.
And being small and frail and cold all the time, it was very easy to be in warmer clothes and nobody really noticed.
Sure.
And then you just kind of carry on. And when I was 17 and stuff going on, I tried again. This time I tried pills, and short of hallucinations, because what I took just gave me enough overdose to really wreck my brain, but not stop my breathing.
Was there hospitalization?
Not that time. The next time was hospitalization. And
So
that was
12,
only a short.
Okay, 12, 17, and then
19.
19.
Yeah, I
Pills
was
that time
already
again?
married to my first husband at that point in time. And we were going through some really rough times already. I mean, I didn't have a good understanding of what love looked like, and I didn't understand relationship, and I didn't understand my role in what I give to the relationship. I know that I needed something from other people because I didn't have it from within. And when that was really breaking down, I did another attempt. Again, it was medications. It was a very strong medication.
Mm-hmm.
And that one was different because there was this peace that came because of all the failure I'd been up to the age of 19. Oh my God, I'm going to be successful. I am going to do this right. I'm going to finally do something right. And so I ingested all the medications. I remember laying down to go to sleep, and there was this immense joy inside of me at that point in time. And I closed my eyes and I thought, this is it. 2 days later, when I wake up in a hospital, I was devastated.
Were you pissed?
I was, well, I wouldn't even say angry. Like, it took my depression to a whole new lower level because this was another affirmation that I wasn't going to get this right. And so the words from my mom when I was 6 about how I would do everything wrong and I would never get anything right in my life, those words were the first things that came back to me. And it was proof that I was never going to get anything right.
Michelle, when you entered into the marriage at 19, what were your expectations? Did you feel like you could finally be loved the way you deserved or dreamed of being loved? But that's coming from someone else. Do you remember how much, if any, did you consider that you loved yourself? Did you feel like you were okay with yourself, or were you looking for someone to get the ball rolling?
Yeah, I was always looking externally for every level of validation. So whether it was validation of my worth, my value, whether or not I was worthy of love, I had no idea what self-love was until I would say within the last 5 years of my life. So I'm 58 now. So like 53, 54, just starting to learn what self-love is. And so everywhere as I looked, whatever some person of authority would say to me, that would be the stamp that I would apply to me. And so if they had a view of, well, you're not good enough. Okay, well, I'm not good enough.
Right. No
My poor
question.
first
That kid's
husband,
like that.
I put a burden on him. I recognize that now, because he had his own stuff. And I added layers of, I was trying to find my value in him, and he couldn't do it. And he had already been a previous addict. And when it was very tough economic times, and when he, returned to a certain job, he returned to a certain lifestyle, and that person changed. I mean, that changed to the point of one night coming home with my girlfriend and finding blood all over our entire apartment, to discover that while my girlfriend and I had been out, him and two buddies committed a very violent crime in our home. And long story short, he went to penitentiary for 2.5 years for nearly killing the pizza delivery man.
Oh my goodness.
And so
Boy, what happened?
I'm like,
He didn't get there under the 30-minute promise or something? Boy.
I don't know, but it took me on a different trajectory. And so as
I'm
my
sure it
life
did.
spiraled
How could
out
it
of control,
not?
because now all of a sudden I'm homeless.
Right. Listen, we're going to take that break I warned you of, or promised, as the case may be. And when we return, we've already talked about 3. So anything after that is more of what we wanted to bring to the forefront. But when we return, we're going to prove that nothing that happens to us is ever just about one thing. We're going to find out what was the flip side of that coin, and where all of those things have eventually led Michelle and more. So with that having been said, share the broadcast out. There's still more great content ahead. We'll be right back.
I received this insight about a title called Prisoner of War. The book
Welcome back to today's installment of Bathrobe Moments. I'm your host, Laura Michaels Harris. Our guest today is the wonderful and courageous Michelle NOORDHOF. Thank you so much for being here. We were talking about the road of all the things, well, not all, but a number of the key points that kept pushing you towards the only option at the time, or so you thought, of suicide, which is a prevalent thing all over the world today. Numbers are at an all-time high as we speak. So now, as we bring it to the final portion of the interview, let's switch things up. And if you could, Michelle, take us back to your recollection of when the shift began, that moment where you decided it was more important to start investing in healing yourself than killing yourself.
Absolutely. And so probably about 8 years ago, maybe 10, no, I guess maybe 10 years ago now, I met this woman by the name of Sylvie through Facebook, and she was going through a cancer journey. And she had this incredible passion for life. And I didn't understand it. I had no idea what that meant because my view of life was so skewed by that point through all my life experiences. But one thing that I made a conscious decision of is while she was fighting so hard to stay alive, I could not, in good consciousness, choose to end mine. I could not throw mine away. And so for me, the beginning level of that was agreeing to live because it was important to somebody else until I could start to figure out from the inside of me what that looked like. And so October 2016, I actually went to an event in Calgary with a girlfriend of mine.
Well, that's
And
recent.
pardon?
That's pretty recent.
Yes, very recent. And so it was an event called Women Talk. And Bridget Lessard-DL, the founder of Women Talk, has created this platform where women can come and share their stories of hope and inspiration, regardless of their life experiences. By the end of the night, I knew that my community needed this event to come. And so January 2017, I opened up a chapter. And where that's significant is as a director, at some point, I was going to have to share my story. And so in the summer of 2017, I decided that I would start to really reflect of who I was at that time and where I'd come from. And as I started to write down each of the pieces, that's when I started to see the connectors. And that's where I had developed this old story attached to a whole bunch of beliefs. And I had the choice to live in those beliefs or to consciously choose to create a new belief system. And that's what I did.
That's what some people refer to as changing the narrative. Would you agree?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. And it had to come from within me. And so the summer of 2017 is like the first time where I'm actually, for the first time, literally going inside myself and looking at me from the inside out and pouring into me all those things that I had wished everybody in my world that I expected to feed into me. I can do that.
Now, how important do you feel? This is a big piece. So let me ring the bell. Lean in, tune in. Here it comes in 3, 2, 1. So Michelle, how important, in your opinion, based on your own journey and experiences, would you say the act of physically writing this down was? How important was that as the conduit for this shift? Instead of typing it, leaving it in here and just laying there thinking about it. I mean, as opposed to what you'd always done before. Why do you think the act of writing it down, literally writing it down, was so conducive to the healing?
That is incredibly key because normally I type stuff. And this was not going to be one of those. And it was pen and paper. Whew, I'm covered in angel bumps right now because it was powerful. That pen, I felt like, was the connector to a place where as the words came out in paper, they started to pull away from me. And I didn't have to have them internally stuck to me.
So instead of them feeling like those indelible tattoos that they feel like when we leave them inside, suddenly if you start realizing maybe this is Velcroed, maybe this is just some felt stuck to, or it's a, chalk, we can just erase it. Is that kind of how? And how soon into the process did you start feeling this is different.
It was like almost immediately.
Exactly.
And it didn't matter all the previous attempts to try and figure stuff out. It was this defining moment where I had a choice of, does my life experience define me, or do I choose to define myself in spite of my life experiences?
So it sounds like you stepped right into a puddle of the power of you.
Yes.
And how'd that make you feel?
Oh, wow. I think when I think in this moment, one of the most incredible things I've, talked a lot about my mom so far in this program is I love her now as a fellow human being. And that's significant for me because the foundation of my belief system came from her. She is a person who had her own life journey, all her good, bad, and ugly. And when I can choose to love her, that just feels amazing in itself. But it also releases the burden that I feel for the life experiences, and it provides the forgiveness
Yes.
towards her. And then I can apply that forgiveness to me because I needed to forgive myself for all the shitty stuff I believed about myself.
Well, you mentioned about that writing process, and clearly you have learned the power that exists within that because you've written some lyrics, and Ray Coates has been here before, the musician from the UK, and you all and some other people have put these things to lyric. I found a way to play it, Michelle, by the way.
Wow.
So right now, before we got about 7 minutes left, we're going to listen to a portion of the, why don't you set it up, tell them why this happened, how it happened, and then we'll take a listen to some of this Stay Here, Stay Now. Go ahead, Michelle.
All right. So Ray and I had a conversation about my journey and what could we do differently to share a message of hope and to let people know that they are needed in this world and that this world is not complete without each and every one of us. And where I fought so hard to go, I've made the very conscious decision to stay.
Amen.
And so this is the song.
Here we go.
My name's Michelle NOORDHOF, and I'm in Alberta, Canada. The song Stay Here, Stay Now is a message of hope. Those who are often feeling that maybe to stay alive is a struggle. My own journey through suicide.
Ever felt life slipping through your fingers? Ever felt you wanted to surrender, give it all away? Come back to now, sweet friend. Doesn't need to be the end. Stay here, stay now. Things will change, sweet friend, remain. Come, stay here now, sweet friend. Come, stay here now, sweet friend. Was your heart once broken? Your deepest tears flowing out? Did you believe the lies, the stories the world told you? Felt a whisper you couldn't shout. Come take my hand, hold it tight. Listen to my words closely, they are for you. This world needs you, sweet friend. And here's the truth, I do too. Come, stay here now, sweet friend. Come, stay here now, sweet friend. Walk with me once more, along the ocean's edge different. Let's breathe in our spiritual harmony. Breathe in our spiritual melody. know sometimes we've lost our way, dear friend, but let's walk in each other's eyes by the water's edge again. Stay, stay now. Things will change, sweet friend remain. Come, stay here now. Sweet friend, come, stay here now. My sweet friend, come, stay here now. Sweet friend.
Okay. I needed a moment again. Wow. Michelle, we're going to drop the link to that song that very powerful. So you all can go in and be poured into by the entire piece. I just wanted to, as we conclude today, again, celebrate your courage for coming on and being so vulnerable, so transparent, and for really helping us to see through your lens how important this is. You guys, you know, suicide currently is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States. And last year, 2020, 47,511 Americans died by suicide. And also in 2020, there were an estimated 1.38 million suicide attempts. So what that means outside of just the numbers is that there are stories. Every one of those is a story. And I want, if you are one of the people that has or is, perhaps one day will be, suffering in silence, please know that you don't need to. There are people beside you at every turn. And just remember, all those betrayals, all of those hurts, all of that bullying, all of those lies, just in the case alone of Michelle and myself, as well as all of you watching, every time something hurt us, tried to kill us, lied to us, did whatever it did that didn't feel so good, we today can bless them and celebrate them, because one thing we know for sure, each of those moments has led us to each other. So I want you to take that with you today. And remember, nothing is ever just about one thing. So if you're feeling like you're the only person in the world, remember that can't be true, because the promise is we're two or more. Look up, stay up, and you will make it through everything. And that's a promise. Michelle, anything you'd like to say to everyone in closing as we get ready to leave?
Yes. I just want to say thank you to my Misfit Nation family.
Yes.
Because December 2019, I made a declaration that I would agree to live. And every time I have a hard moment, I just think at that moment, that promise and that commitment, and it gets me through. And all my life experiences are blessings, because I wouldn't be who I am today without everything that's happened to me. And I have no regrets for anything that's happened. And for anyone who's suffering or anyone who's lost someone, know that you are not alone, and to reach out and talk to somebody. This world needs you. You are meant to be here. You have a purpose and a reason, and you are loved, and you are enough.
Yes, you are. Couldn't have said it better myself, Michelle. Listen, thank you again. And thank all of you for coming in and helping us all to fulfill the greatest promise known in the universe, where two or more of us comes together, something wonderful will happen. Now, as we leave and go into the weekend, don't leave what you found here behind. Take it with you. Share it. Give it away. Pass it around. I want to invite you back next Monday, God willing, at 8 a.m. Central. I'll meet you right out front on the front porch, where we together will enjoy the next episode of Bathrobe Moments. Get out there and be kind to yourself, and be even kinder to others. Bye-bye. Thanks, Michelle.
I'll show you mine.